Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. I, of course, am here with your daily mortgage rate update, the only place on the web where we talk about what's going on with rates and pricing each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And remember, next week you'll have your guest host, Ron Siegel, filling in for me. So I appreciate you, Ron, for doing that. Good morning, y'all. Mark Clark, Julie Lawrence, Jerry Avila, Megan Lindberg, Randy Leonard, Angela Walters, Jay Rodriguez, Deb Dickinson, Mallory Fotiadis. Good morning, all. Hope you all are doing well. If you're not here live and you're on the replay, don't forget, give me hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Although I've noticed, I think it's too long. A lot of people don't watch the replay, but I don't care. Don't forget to smash that like button, tag and all the friends, share this post in a group. If you want a quick reminder, if you want a text reminder that I'm going live, hmmr.io/reminder, or use the cool QR code over here. If you're on your phone right now, you can actually take a screenshot and then go back, and in your photos, that QR code will still work. I love that. I think it's great. Cindy Pulliam, good morning. Great to have you here. Michael Love, good morning, sir. If you're here this morning, say good morning. Mr. Siegel said today is National Apple Pie Day. You can bet that Donald Trump will take credit for their apple pie and National Apple Pie Day. Because what's more American than that, right? So, Bobby Searson, good morning. Great to have all of you here. Right. So let's dive in. I'm going to go ahead and pop up the other screen. We'll get into the charts in a minute, but as far as life goes, let's go ahead and talk about inflation. The inflation data came in softer than forecast for a third month. That should be great. It should be fantastic. Should be amazing. This should be wonderful news that we are celebrating. However, bonds just were kind of like, didn't really care. If we take a look at the charts this morning, you can go ahead and let me bounce this around a little bit. We'll make it a little bit easier to see, and we'll take a look. So, right now we will, let's kind of start with the basics here. Hold on. Hammer, are we in the danger zone? Today is Top Gun Day for those around in 1986. See, I would much rather like Top Gun Day than Apple Pie Day. Come on, man. Top Gun was awesome. Rob Stewart, Allison Foy, good morning. Great to have you all here. All right, so bear with me. I'm just trying to get to here we are. All right, so quick recap. Mortgage bonds, they lost ground late in the day yesterday. I got to refresh this so that it'll come up here. All right, so take a look here. I'll actually do this on the 2-day. So right here, see this little crevasse? Yesterday, mortgage-backed securities lost ground around 4 o'clock, right? Late in the day. I thought we'd see more reprices worse, late day reprices worse. Do me a favor in the comments. Let me know yes or no. Did you see any late day reprices worse? There were only a very few, like 3 or 4, that were actually reported through MBS Live. So I was surprised. I thought we'd see more late day reprices worse when we kind of fell off that. Pricing came out yesterday. We were right around 98.90, and you can see this morning we are right there at that same level. So rate sheets today basically should be about the same as yesterday. And like I said, this morning's improvement in bonds, see it right here, this line, we improved in overnight trading. We recovered from that weakness to end the day yesterday. Right here at 8:30, the inflation data came out, and it was like nothing. There's no move at all. Deb Dickinson said 1 and not 1 I expected. Jason Hansen, maybe 1 or 2 late day reprices. Will Patterson, reprice worse on West Coast at about 130 PDT. Come on, Miss Belly. Come on in. Come on. You always come in when I'm on the call. Hold on, y'all. I'm just letting Millie out. Come on. Come. Otherwise, she'll sit there and meow at me, and it's just annoying. Anyway, so this morning saw bonds improve before the data, but the CPI data itself really didn't have much of an effect at all. Like I said, it came in softer than expected because the tariff things really aren't hitting yet. Inflation rose less than forecast in April, maintained prices for clothing and new cars. Now, remember, like Ford, they raised the price of cars coming out of Mexico earlier this month, so that wouldn't have shown up in the April report yet. But they raised I think it's the Mustang Mach-E, and the Bronco Sport. Those all come out of Mexico, and they raised the MSRP on those by $2,000, according to an article in the Wall Street Journal. So, we are seeing that, but generally, a lot of places, they still have stuff there. So I'll get to that, but let's go over the actual number. So remember, CPI stands for Consumer Price Index. Core CPI removes energy and food costs because they're considered to be volatile. I don't know why we think that it's okay to exclude probably two of the very large parts of consumers' budgets, food being a big part of it now, right? But the month over month headline number, as they call it, was estimated to come in at 0.3%, and it came in at 0.2%. So it's a little bit better than expected. The core month over month was estimated to be at 0.3% and came in at 0.2%. So much for all that volatility. Year over year was supposed to be 2.4, came in at 2.3, and the core was 2.8, came in at 2.8. Remember, the CPI is not the 2% number that the Fed uses. They're looking for the PCE to be at 2%. The core tends to run a little bit hotter the last few years. So, but this is, we're right there. So we're not really seeing any of the big, inflation that people were expecting to see. Now, let's go a little deeper on there. While the Trump administration tariffs are widely expected to boost inflation, companies may still be working their way through a massive stockpile of built-up inventory. Remember, Target, Walmart, they met with Trump, and they were still, prices hadn't changed on the shelves because they were still working through a lot of inventory. What's happened is, I'm not an expert at this stuff, but from what I have picked up, and Ron, you have more experience with this, maybe you can chime in, but a lot of companies have kept their orders from coming in, because once they come in and they hit the port, if the tariffs are in effect, they pay the tariffs. If they wait, like now that we have that huge drop, there are some tariffs, but they're much lower, and they can go ahead and receive those goods now, and they'll pay a much, much lower percent. So we still may see inflation, but it wouldn't be nearly as bad. U.S. importers still wrestling with higher trade costs and fear they could jump again when the pause is up. The 90-day reprieve removed the combined 145% levies on most Chinese imports down to 30%, suggests more mild price hikes could be in store. But should the catch-up period to restock, I wonder if that makes you guys yawn. Should restock supply create congestion at ports that may actually lead to faster price increases in the CPI? They're overreading things right now. We'll see where they come in. Ron said they exclude food and energy because monetary policy does not influence pricing in those items. Regardless of monetary policy, food and energy will continue to be consumed. Yeah, I get it, but you see how much of a difference it is. I think it should be factored in there because it is inflation. So seeing what we got there. Again, here's what I kind of want to bring up and show to y'all. So let's take a look at where rates have been and kind of summarize. So first of all, we take a look earlier in the year. January was our worst rates, and this is using Mortgage News Daily as a reference point. If we go ahead and we look at the chart, just 30-year conforming, and let's do, let's do the last 180 days for now. So you can see it here, January, worst rates, highest rates, both Optimal Blue showing that, Mortgage News Daily showing that. They're basically in lockstep. They look exactly the same for those two charts, don't they? There's very little difference in them, right? It shows kind of where rate sheets are at. So in March, February rates came down. And in March, things kind of leveled off. And then right before April, the end of March, when the tariffs were first taking effect, those first couple of days, we saw just a little dip as uncertainty reigned. and then all hell broke loose and rates jumped. They were at 6.5, jumped up back up to 7, right? I mean, we saw a big jump there. You can see it here, 6.6 up to 7.07. We're going to call it 6.5 to 7. We saw rates jump a half a point at the beginning of April. A lot of volatility in April, but they are better now. They're down, about an eighth to a quarter overall, right? So, but not as good as what we saw back here in March. So rates specifically, if you take a look here, rates are higher than they were in March, about an eighth of a point higher, on average. Better than the worst levels that we saw on that immediate in April. Things are starting to slow down, and you can see that same behavior in mortgage bonds. I mean, it was right here. You see that same thing going on. It's just the inverse. So in January, you saw that bonds came down to their lowest level. And remember, I mean, this is 97.55, 97.45. That's 150 basis points, 140 basis points lower than where we're at right now in January. Those are our worst levels. Then we came up through February. We saw quite the improvement. Here we were into March. And in March, we spiked up right into April, and then boom, bottom dropped out. Then we've seen volatility, up, down, and it's starting to level off now. This is where rates are going to stay. I mean, they move a little, but generally, reverse on the day, by the way, is moderate. There's some concerns could see bonds lose ground as the day goes on. I'll come back to all your comments. Keep talking, y'all. I will come back to those in a minute. And the outlook, I mean, really, rates are just waiting for the next clear sign. So we got this better inflation data, and it wasn't enough to change the opinion of what's going to happen with the Fed. Expectation of Fed rate cuts. Remember that it was almost, excuse me, it was almost 60-30. It was like 66-33. 2/3 believed we'd see a rate cut in June. That has now off the table. 92% believe no rate cut in June. Hold on a second. In July, there's the beginning, a little bit. There's about a third that believe we could see a rate cut in July. Most market participants don't believe that, though. September is the first where we really see an idea of a rate cut by then. 80% expectation of a rate cut by September. December, 2 rate cuts, and possibly 3. So the reason I bring this up, mortgage rates are pricing in exactly what you see on these charts for what would happen with the Fed. We would have to see really weak labor market data come in for expectations of the Fed rate cuts to increase, or some really consistently bad economic data showing that concerns of a recession are increasing again. Markets basically are happy with what's going on with the tariff talk, the trade war talk, basically have given up on the concern of a recession. Yes, we may see the economy slow down, but not slow down enough to call it a recession, not to be a deep, deep slowdown. Because of that, there's no reason to see mortgage rates improve. Remember something too. I know that nobody likes to hear this, but if house prices were at 2019, 2020 levels, instead of doubling in price over the last few years after COVID and the ridiculous way that it was handled, then, the rates wouldn't be all that painful. When you're financing twice the amount, yeah, it's a lot more painful when rates go up. Also, if we had never seen 2% and 3% rates, when I bought my house in 2017, rates were at 4. 4 was low. 4 is low. So, we generally, and we probably wouldn't be in the 7s, we'd be in the 6s right now. So, all of that's kind of where we're at. But based on the reality, there's a lot of talk of soft markets. We've talked about that before, different pockets in the US, but overall, it's not there. So let's see what y'all have to say. Let's talk a little bit about what you guys are bringing to the table here. I'm going to just kind of weed through the comments. Derek said the second Top Gun was fire. A couple of reprices later in the day. Yes, both Top Guns are fire, dude. Love the original Top Gun when I'm on a flight. Watch it when I'm on a flight in turbulence. Good morning, Charlie Bedita, Tina Brumond, Kelly Hamilton, Harry Dennis, Kathy Jensen, great to all of you. Sean Segaloff, single movie Top Gun movie franchise, Iron Eagle. Ron said, yeah, we talked about that already. Food will be consumed even if people go from eating steak to ramen noodles. Yeah, exactly. Some of the companies who had orders in the water put them into free trade zone warehouses. They did not have to pay the tariffs well in those free trade zone warehouses. Now the tariffs have dropped. Those goods will be released and tariffs paid. Yeah, thank you for sharing that because I did not know that. Did you notice last Friday was the first time in many years ex-COVID that no ships left China for the U.S.? Nope, I did not notice. Thank you for bringing that to our attention as well. I don't think reports are manipulated, Derek. I really don't, because the argument would be that there's political gain to manipulate the data, and yet we still see the same things. I just think part of it's the data is collected in a very incongruous, incompetent, come up with a bunch of ins level. I just think it's there. Giddy up, Mr. Randy Tico. When do I anticipate us getting in the 6.25 rates? I don't anticipate it at all. What we'd have to see happen is we got to see weak labor market data. You got to see the labor market soften up, and you got to see the economy soften up. We're going to get whatchamacallit. Hold on a minute. Let me see here. We are going to get Powell talks on Thursday, but more importantly, let me move this over so y'all can see this with me here. We're going to get retail sales data on Thursday. Tomorrow we're going to get the where's the PPI? Oh, that's going to be on Thursday too. It's funny how they always a couple of days off, right? So Thursday we get the PPI. You get Fed Chair Powell, but he's going to say more of the same thing. We're still waiting to see the effects. Things are uncertain. They said the word uncertain like 17 or 20 times in this press conference. So I don't think this is going to matter. Retail sales is going to be the bigger thing. You got consumer sentiment data coming on Friday. So you get some more economic data that could help things this week. That's why I would cautiously float. I'm looking to find that so I could throw it on the screen. I would be cautiously floating unless you're really, really strongly risk averse. Things closing near term, of course, have to be more careful and have to be ready to see things change. Have to be ready to lock in case things change. We really want to be watching the 10-year Treasury yield. I mean, if it breaks 4.5, that's going to be a big red flag. We want to keep an eye on that. But as long as it stays below 4.5, right now it's at 4.47. We're all right with that. For mortgage bonds, 98.67. But again, to answer Derek, I don't think 6.25 is in the cards anytime soon. Obviously, we're talking about not buying it down to get to 6.25. I mean, take a look at Mortgage News Daily. Even at our best levels here in March, we were still in the mid to high sixes. The only time we even got anywhere near 6.25, let's go back further. It should have been September of last year. Yeah. So September of last year was the lowest rates that we saw. And we thought that things were going to continue to get better. And then they didn't. They got, they kind of came back up. We've been here for a year. Look at this, 2 years, January of 23, rates 6.2. We would love to get back to that. But here we are by March, 6.85. 2 years later, where are rates? 6.92. Here you go. We'll go yesterday, 6.83, or Thursday, 6.83. Here they were March 1st, 6.7. So, we had that high point here in October. We had the low point here in September. September of 22 was, come on. You thought 2022, you guys can't see that. Hold on. Let me get my head out of the way. Here, look at this, right? So make this full screen. So, take a look here. 22, we had, this was the heyday. But ever since we've come up, we capped up here in October. Those were our worst levels, came back down. And then again, this year, we've really seen, in that high mark here in January was the low sevens. And here, I don't think 6.25 is in the cards. What do you guys think? the reporting is manipulated, not necessarily the report. Every news outlet plays to their base, so they report it what their audience wants to hear. Spin anything the data reveals. Yeah, I meant leaving key things out of the reports. Yeah, I don't know that they do that either. So that's just me though. But anyway, that's it, my friends. So yeah, I think these are the rates. Look for your better rate sheets. Let me throw the lock advice back on there. So tomorrow should be a little bit calmer of a day as we head into Wednesday. Thursday, we got a lot going on the calendar. So cautiously float for now. Let's see where everything goes. Loans that have time don't have to worry. I mean, if you got loans closing in June, after June, we got plenty of time to see where things kind of go and what the signals are. Loans closing in the next 30 days. No urgency, no need to panic. Even if things turn negative today, I wouldn't necessarily lock those. It's really just about loans closing near term and trying to squeeze out what little bit of gains you can get. Right now, mortgage-backed securities have lost a little bit of ground this morning. If we look at this, let me pop this back on the screen again. If we were to see this continue to happen, take a look here. See this? See this drop right here? Let me zoom in on this if I can. All right, look at that. This is what we're worried about. See this right here? This is why I said reprice risk on the day is moderate, because you see how you get these drops. And if that continues to get down, then I'm locking anything closing in the next 15 days, being done with it. I mean, this is about as good as it's probably going to get for the next couple of weeks. But if we get recover, if it can kind of increase on that again, then we've got less to worry about. That's kind of our normal gig. So, all right, my friends. Well, thank you for joining me. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.